back, soapsters. So in today's tutorial, we're going to look at doing a vertical poured rimmed Peacock Swirl. Now, what I'm getting out of the little packet that you can see in the bottom of the screen here is some soap that I've poured into a loaf mould, and I've done a Peacock Swirl into that. And the thing with the normal Peacock Swirl is you have to cut it horizontally. So you cut your bar slightly differently than you would a normal loaf. And for me, I'm like, you know what, I'd like to put it through my soap cutter and all of that rather than faffing around with a knife. So what I've done is I made a small batch of Peacock Swirl soap. I cut off some of the layers using my log splitter. And it's about 5 mil, so half a centimetre thick. And what I'm doing with that one is just going to line the outside of this mould. Now, a square mould is always easier to line than a round one. But if you do happen to have a round mould, you just warm this in the oven a little bit and it will conform to the edges. So my little square mould here, I've lined with some freezer paper and all of these little bits of soap that I've cut to fit. They are quite snug, but I want them snug because I need them to really push against the outside there. The mould itself is lined with some freezer paper, and I was a little sceptical, a little bit like, is freezer paper really worth spending all that money on in the UK? Because a roll of it can be quite expensive. But having sent a message to Mrs. Soap and Clay at Soap and Clay, check out her YouTube channel, it is brilliant. She reuses hers, and she reuses it until it basically falls apart because it's a plastic coated paper. And it's like, well, actually, do you know what? If we can do that, then let's go for it. So I'm a little bit of a convert to freezer paper. So anyway, what we've got here is our rim of the soap, and we push that in. Now, don't worry, some of these gaps are going to get filled in once the soap goes in and it starts pushing against the soap towards the outside. So all the pressure will equalise. Now we've got that kind of all sorted there. We're going to move on to the actual body of the soap. Now I've got all of my soap ready to go here. I made a big batch, and you may notice the colour scheme is similar to something that you may have already seen on my channel, but it'll be worth kind of just noting these bits and pieces here. So I'm popping the soap in using these squeeze bottles, and it allows me to just create light streaks across the top of the soap, and it will allow the pattern to flow all the way through the soap. And because I'm making this as a vertical, what you see on the top is basically what's going to be all the way through the soap. So I'm not having to cut it into chunks and then slice it horizontally. And if you want to check out how to do a Peacock Swirl with the horizontal cut as well, why not check out my Peacock Swirl tutorial, and I'll leave a card just on the top of the screen now. So we're basically just going to build up this soap bit by bit by bit. But the key to a Peacock Swirl is the quintessential S shape that you make with your glass rod or your dowel or your bamboo skewer. Now on the screen now, I'm going to pop up a little bit of a animation to show you what I mean by the S shape. So once you've laid down all your soap, depending on which swirl you're doing, this is the shape that you're going to make when you do a Peacock Swirl. As you can see, it's just a serpentine S that goes all the way from the top to the bottom of the mould. Now it could be that you do it twice, 3, 4, 5 times, but the important thing is now, see how the second motion goes in the opposite direction to the first. Then when you do your third one, it goes in the opposite direction to the second. It'll be the same way as the first. So every odd number that you do along your mould will go in the same direction, and every even number you do in your mould will go along the same direction. And you're basically looking for this kind of honeycomb-esque look. And that way it's pulling all of the soap into its various shapes, and it's giving you that Peacock Swirl effect. That's the most important thing when doing this technique. So as you can see here, I'm just building up the colours, and I've got my colours in an order, and I'm always following the same order because this soap is going to be cut once it's laid on its side, as it were. I need all of the colours to be in every single layer of that soap as I'm building it up. So when I do my S-curve through it, every single bar will have the same colours in it, and they'll look consistent. If you just built this up and you put too much colour in at one point and not enough colour in at the next, you won't get that consistency through the bar. However, you'll still get a brilliant bar of soap, and it'll still have a Peacock Swirl-esqueness to it. But if you really want to get this technique working and to give it its full shot, this is the best way of doing it. Now, there's nothing to say that you can't actually use some mica mixed with some lightweight oil and drizzle that through as you're going, that will still give you some swirls within the soap in a metallic-y mica shininess. But again, you want to lay it in these lines all in the same direction. As you can see, I'm going up and down here, but if you work better going horizontally, that's fine too. And I will need to actually turn this mold so that all the horizontal lines are basically facing me. So I'm going to turn the mold 90 degrees and then I'll work at 90 degrees to these lines I'm making. So your Peacock Swirl is always going to go at a 90 degree to these lines. If I was going to do the traditional Peacock Swirl, I would be making lines through this perpendicular to the ones that I've poured, and then the Peacock Swirl will go in the same direction as the lines I've made. So that's one of the big differences between a modified Peacock Swirl and a Peacock Swirl, is that you're actually creating the lines here and then just pulling through. Personally speaking, I prefer a Peacock Swirl because my batter gives me enough working time. I can manipulate that quite well, and I'm not left with a muddy mess, but I'm also getting a nice flow through that. So as you can see, I'm building up in this soap, and this is probably going to give me 3 or 4 really good sized bars. And I'm just making sure I'm getting all of those colours in. You can see that the pink works brilliantly. As you can see all of those lines happening. Then I come back in with my white. Now, this is a little, you look at the colour in the squeeze bottle there and it looks off-white. And because this is a lard-based soap, it's going to give me a white colour at the end of it, but it's also still going to be quite soft. So with this particular recipe, if you're doing a lard soap and you want long work time, you're going to have a bit more water in there. It's going to be softer on our moulding, and therefore you really do need to get something like a sodium lactate in there, or a little bit of salt. You need something just to help you harden the bar for unmoulding, or you need to have a little bit of patience and just allow it a few days to kind of set up in the mould. Then give it a day out of the mould so that you've even got something that's a little bit harder to work with. And I'll show you a little bit later on why that's important. So we keep building up the colours, line by line, layer by layer. And people often say, I don't like working with squeeze bottles because they're a pain to clean up. And I think, well, they're actually not. There's a lot of people that use these little packing bags that you get in a lot of things now, where it's just kind of like a row of bags that are filled with air. And they'll put them in, but I can't work with them. I seem to get all of the soap stuck in them. It becomes a hot mess. So I go with these, and to clean them up, it's really easy. I just leave everything in the bottles overnight to saponify, so I'm not working with anything that could be dangerous. I'll then take all the tops off, pop them into one of these kind of crates that you use for toys. You just get them, they're quite cheap in most supermarkets or shops these days. And I fill that with hot water and some washing up liquid. I just let them sit overnight in that and allow everything to soften up. Then I've got a nice cheap bottle brush that I've bought from Amazon. It was maybe 4 or 5 quid. Into the bottle, swish everything around to really kind of just break up all of that soap that's in there and get it poured out. And then you can wash them up as normal. Now, for me, that really isn't an arduous task to do. I don't find it at all difficult, and I quite enjoy the catharsis of washing up after having soap making session. But that's just me. Anyway, we're going to go in here with a bamboo skewer, and you're going to push it right to the bottom. Make sure you go to the bottom of the mould, and you're going right the way along the bottom of the mould. Now, spot the deliberate mistake here. Are we ready? I'm going in exactly the same direction each time. I haven't followed my own rules. I haven't done what I'm supposed to do. And this goes to prove that we as soap makers are not infallible, and people that have done it for years or have made hundreds or thousands of bars of soap, we still lose concentration and we still don't do it right. I like the effect we're getting. Don't get me wrong, it's great, but it's not the quintessential Peacock Swirl. So what are we going to do here? It's never broken. Soap making is one of those wonderful things, is you can always kind of adapt, and you can kind of look at something and go, I'm not happy with that. How am I going to fix my mistake? Now, because I'm in quite a nice small mould here, I'm actually going to go through and redo my swirl again, my Peacock Swirl, but do it bigger. So I'm going to start in the corner here, and I'm going to do 1 big sweep out, 2 big sweeps out, maybe 3 big sweeps out and into the corner or down to the bottom. And then I'm going to start in the opposite corner and go in the opposite direction. Now that is the Peacock Swirl S shape, and you can see how it's created a different look on the top there. That's what you're looking for. So do as I say, not as I've done there, and you'll be absolutely fine. So here we are with the cut of the soap, and all I'm going to do is take off the first little bit here with my wire cutter. This has been battered, but it's a brilliant cutter, and I just kind of I can't bear to get rid of it at the moment. It's just a wonderful workhorse. So I'm going for about 2 centimeters on these soap. They are a bigger size soap, so therefore I don't necessarily need to cut them quite so thick as I would. And let's cut the first one off here. And will I show you? No, I'm not going to show you just yet. We're going to go through the whole cut, and then I'll show you the front of the soap. So we've got one cut there. Always try and wipe your wire down, even with your fingers or a little bit of cloth when you are working with a wire cutter. It'll help you in the long run. Our second one off there, just tidy the edges up off screen for you. Now this actually gave me 3 large bars and a really decent sized sample bar. This is the last bar at the end here. You could cut into quarters and give it quite a nice sample soap out of this one. So that's number 3 there. And there we go. There is your soap. We'll show a little bit better of it later on, but you do need to plane these soaps off, and these are a little bit soft, as you can see on my planer here. It's sticking underneath and it's making a mess of the top of it, so I had to clean that down quite regularly. But I was in a little bit of a rush. I needed to get this video out for you guys, and I just thought, well, we're going to have to go with it. But as you can see there, we've got our Peacock Swirl on the sides. We've got a rimmed soap with a Peacock Swirl on the inside, and I really quite like that design. So here we are at the end with our final soap, and there you can see that beautiful swirl heading through it. Lots of colours going on, but I think the edge and the rim and the middle of the soap come together really nicely in this beautiful colour scheme, and I'm actually quite happy with that soap. There's no real right or wrong way for doing a Peacock Swirl. Give it a go, try it yourself, and see what you can come up with. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me grow and allows me to make more videos and tutorials for all of you. When you subscribe, don't forget to click the bell icon if you'd like to get notified when a new video is uploaded. And thanks a lot, Soapsters. I'll see you again next time.